Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to this award-winning Paul Brown show. This evening, we're going to be dealing with a very important subject that we have in our community, and my guest will be Mr. Delton Adams. He's a famous author, and he's going to be discussing issues that we're facing in our families, the issues of domestic violence, child abuse, incest. How you doing there, Mr. Adams?
I'm good, sir.
Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Okay, tell the audience a little bit about yourself first.
I am a divorced father of 3 wonderful young adult children. I am a singer. I am a born-again Christian. And now I'm an author. And I'm looking forward to God using my life to impact the lives of many.
And what we're going to be talking about is a subject that's really touching in the lives of our families. And one of the topic is domestic violence. How did you have to go through that in your life?
Even to this day, that's one of the most painful memories that I have to live with for the rest of my life, because my parents were married for 18 years, and as early on as I can remember, even before the first grade, I had to witness my mom endure extreme domestic violence. I mean, there's some situations that I talk about in my book that just, I can't even believe that actually happened, and that my mom survived it, and that her siblings, her 3 children, survived it. So that's a very touchy subject. It's a very painful subject, but it's something that continues to go on in society, and we need to do more as far as bringing it to the forefront, and public service announcement, exposure, educating people about the seriousness of domestic violence.
Okay, when you, as a child, went through something as far as seeing your mother being abused by your father, how did you handle that as a child? And how far along did it go?
There was one particular incident that I write about in my book when I was in the 2nd or 3rd grade, when my father had knocked my mother down in the floor in the kitchen, and blood was coming out of the corner of her mouth, and she began to scream and cry and asked me to go get June, which is her brother, my Uncle June. He lived at the end of the apartment complex, he and his wife. And my father put his foot over her head and threatened to crush her skull if I ran out of the door to go get help for my mom. And so then he demanded that I go back in my bedroom, and I just cried, and I ran in the bedroom, and I just felt tormented because I was helpless. I was absolutely helpless. I was too afraid of him. And so what can you do other than just lay in the bed and cry and hope that your mother survived another round of domestic violence?
Okay, as you notice this going on over and over, didn't that what point didn't you feel like you needed to contact like the police or something, or authority, or tell someone?
At the time, being so very young, I was unable to even think that way. You're talking about 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th grade, 8th grade. It was, my parents divorced after the 8th grade, and it wasn't until after the 8th grade that I began to think about ways of getting back at my father. But I was just so relieved that my parents finally did divorce after the 8th grade. But there were so many incidences all the way up until my parents divorced, whereas my mom was in a situation where we literally thought our father was going to kill her. And just knowing that I would have to get dressed in the morning to get ready to go out to the bus stop, but then I would stop by the master bedroom, hoping that my mother literally was not in the bedroom dead, because at times my father during the night would lock the master bedroom door, so that he could beat her like he wanted to. Because by this time we were in middle school, so we were a little bit bigger than we were in elementary school. And so that we would not be able to come to her rescue, he would lock her in the bedroom and then beat her. And so it's just a painful reminder of all of the extreme domestic violence that my mom had to endure, and that we also had to suffer through as well.
When you had to go to school, how were you able to go through the process of going through the school in class, dealing with this type of thing going on at home?
I can look back on my report cards and see during the times whereas my mom was enduring extreme domestic violence that I had really bad grades in school because it was very hard to stay focused. My father was a prominent businessman, and my mom helped my father run several of his businesses. And I remember my mom being in there in a retail record store, looking so beautiful, but she had to wear shades most oftentimes because her eyes would be black and blue and her lip busted up. And so, but in spite of all that, I can honestly say that my mother, she showed us love, and she was a pillar of strength for us. And it's amazing how a woman can endure so much and still try to be there to protect her children. So once again, I am really amazed, and it just lets me know that God had His hands on my mother, because it's a miracle that she was never hospitalized due to the extreme domestic violence that she endured throughout the majority of the marriage.
Okay, you said you had sisters,
I have one older sister and a younger brother who I was raised with.
and how were they able to deal with that type of situation going on at the house? And did y'all discuss it among each other?
We were too young. We really didn't discuss this. It was something that we knew was a part of our everyday life. We had a father that we loved. We had a mother that we loved. Um, we probably, in our subconscious mind, we wanted to appear like we were this happy, normal family. And it was just something that we were all a victim of. My mom and her three children, we were all a victim of domestic violence, because we would get beat if we got too close and tried to intervene, even when we got older. And so it was something that we just, when I look back, we were just in a trap. We was in a family household that we knew that domestic violence was almost a part of our everyday life.
Okay. Out of
So,
you said you had six others, or
It
was
was
six
five
of
others,
five?
including me.
Okay.
Six.
Out of all the siblings, you were the only one being abused, or you're not, you know.
I wasn't the only one being abused. She abused all of us. My mom and my dad went through a divorce at an early age. I was about 6, 7 years old, and my mom at the time, her husband, my dad, had an affair with her biological sisters, which resulted in the divorce. My mom then became a drug addict, a crackhead, as the term used today. So we were all in a very abusive situation there with my mom, but I bear the roughest burden of all of that abuse. One, because I found out later that I was somebody else's child. I was that other man that she had an affair with child.
Well, how did your siblings, when they saw this abuse going on, how did they deal with it?
Well, whenever my mom, went into her little situation of needing drugs and couldn't get her hands on the drugs, she would just turn into a big rage. And of course, we would get beatings and whippings and things like that with whatever she can grab. Might it be a spoon, a fork, or extension cords? You know the story, things like that. But the most of it is three girls and three boys. I'm the second oldest daughter. Like she would feed those my other brothers and sisters, or feed my two sisters, and had me stand in the corner. Whatever they were done eating, then I would eat what they didn't want. for Easter. She would buy them all beautiful dresses. And I recall, not getting a beautiful dress. It was that kind of stuff that really, really stuck home with me. It stuck to my heart. And I developed a hate for my mom at the time.
So, with all this going on, did you ever inform, other family members of what was going on with yourself and how your mother was treating you? And I mean, because it had to have been really affecting you, not only, emotionally. It had to be really affecting you.
Oh, yes, it was mentally, emotionally. And yes, there were other family members around, and they would address the situation. But the other family members was on drugs as well, so they couldn't do anything about it. No more than that's wrong, Laura. That's her name. That's wrong. You shouldn't treat her like that. But that's it. They just stated their opinion, and that was that. I didn't stay with anybody but my mom, so the abuse would continue.
When you went to school, did your peers, did they observe? Because you had to take it to school.
Absolutely.
So how did your peers, your teacher react seeing you possibly going through a lot of these changes in your life?
And that's exactly why I'm an advocate today, because everybody want to turn their head to the situation. We would go to school with bruises on us, and I recall having two pairs of pants, one belonging to me and one belonging to my brother, and we would rotate them around, to go to school. And my teacher would notice, the same garments, day after day. My hair was never, up to par, and things like that. And I used to stutter real, real bad. So I never wanted to really talk or read out loud and things like that. So she knew something was going on, but no one wanted to get involved. No one wanted to get involved, and it was a sad time for me and my other brothers and sisters, because it was such a struggle to go to school and people are laughing and talking about you. Not on top of the abuse, they knew that my mom and my mom's sister and my dad was having an affair, so we would get teased, so to speak, on both hands. It was a horrific experience. It really was.
Do you feel like the school system let you down?
Of
Because
course. Of course. Yes, sir. I really feel that the school system let me down. And that's one of the things that, one of the places I advocate at the most. I go to schools and speak to the youth and encourage them. If there's anything that's going on, it's okay to talk to your principal or your guidance counselor or an adult for that matter. But even though I knew that as a little girl, you're so afraid that you're going to get mama in trouble. That was my mom. So that's why I go to schools and do workshops and programs and things like that, especially for the K through the fifth grade.
coming back to as you grew older, when did you decide to leave that, or were you taken away, or how did you get away from that situation?
Good question. My mom turned into such a severe crackhead, if you will. She started to steal fraud checks and things like that. So she ended up going to prison for 10 years. And my dad went to court, and the judge granted him custody of all of us. At the time, he was trying to find us, and my mom kept moving from place to place to place. At the age 8 or 9, maybe, we were all homeless, no running water, no lights, and things like that. So it was the best thing that she did went to prison, because we had a better life with my dad.
What type of relationship do you have with your father now?
Well, a very good relationship, I would say. The man raised me, and he also knew at the time that I wasn't his biological child, but we were damaged. All of us were damaged. So he could not question the fact then I was little and needed help. So he did the next best thing. He did his best to raise us.
Did that cause you to become more respectful of him, being that you weren't his biological child, but he still treated you like you were?
Yes, it gives the ultimate, it allowed me to give the ultimate respect to my father. He too suffered some abuse, in his childhood, by way of not being able to finish school. He dropped out at the grade 6 to take care of his mom and things like that. So he never had a lot of education, but he had a lot of he had a lot of common sense. And I remember him lining all of us up on a Sunday morning looking at Jimmy Swaggart. And it was just one TV show I recall looking at. Jimmy Swaggart at the time talked about forgiveness and how we had to forgive the people that really hurt us. And I wrestled with that thing because I did not want to forgive my mom. I wanted to hate this lady for all that she suffered me. But I felt better when I forgave her.
What caused you to forgive her, and at what point? I mean, was it when she came back from prison, or while she was still in prison, or at what point did you decide you needed to forgive your mother?
Actually, believe it or not, my dad, he always taught us to love our mom and to pray for this lady. Um, and it was remarkable to me hearing that, knowing that I wasn't his child, and for him to still, encourage us to love this lady because I was too young at the time to realize this. I think he knew that it was something else going on with her other than, just her being her. He knew that there might have been some abuse or sickness or something going on with her. So he always led us in a prayer at night, and we would pray for my mom.
Okay, as you came along in life, where do you see yourself as far as dealing with your past in today's?
It's a lot more in depth than what I'm sharing right now. It really caused me to be a different individual because all I wanted my mom to do was to love me. My big question was, what's wrong with me? You don't love me. Break my heart as a child, and it breaks my heart as a young lady. But like I said, I knew I was born for a purpose.
Sure.
So I never let her mistreating me stop me from getting to any destination, any goals in my life. I took the hurt and I turned it into strength. I had an older sister, but I became the older sister, by encouraging them as well, because it's a big deal when it's your own mom doing this abuse to you. And whenever she would, get high and things like that, these other crackheads would be there and other men, and they would start to abuse my sister and I. And I remember this one particular night when she got like so high and she passed out. And my little sister came running through the living room, and I jumped up, and this man, was trying to get to her. And I remember grabbing my little sister, and we ran under the bed, and I held her real tight. One of the points that I have, my hiding place, that's what we would do. We would get into this place to get away from it all. Sometimes we would even, just cringe and pass out and wake up the next morning or something like that. But I became the protector of my brothers and my sisters and struggled hard not to let nobody get to them. You understand? So,
Okay, how easy was it to be able to tell your story and put it in a book?
It wasn't easy. And I'm going to tell you why. Writing my book was challenging. It took me 4 years to write this book. I started writing this book like towards the end of 2013, beginning of 2014. And as I would remember and trying to relive situations and experiences so I could write my book, when I say your mind is a powerful thing, I would be reliving these situations to the point I would taste the dope. I would taste the alcohol. Sometimes I can almost feel or go through the emotions of the acts that I was doing to get my dope. I mean, it was like just so unreal. So I had to like just stop, refresh, regroup, and refill a lot of times because I didn't want to think or feel that way. That's one place I would never want to go, or I would never want to wish that on no one. Being addicted to drugs and alcohol is something serious. It's a really bad disease, and it's something really hard to come from.
Okay.
So writing my book, it really was hard for me, but it really made me strong too, because I was able to get those feelings, pray about them, and let them go. But in the meantime, with writing the book, I would have to stop again just to refresh and regroup and get myself together and get out that space, because it would take me there, like literally there in my mind. So it was difficult at times, but I got it done. I finished my book August 2017, August 2nd to be exact. I did finish and get everything published. I got everything proofread. Now, with that being said, because my book is so raw,
Okay.
I went through 3 different publishing companies to get my book published. And due to the content of my wording, it's so street and so raw, they didn't want to publish my book. They wanted to change my words.
Okay.
And changing my words, it wouldn't have been my book. That wouldn't have been my story, which I have a problem with. Well, I had a problem with back in the day. We'll get to that later. But with the book being written, it was like really hard to get somebody to publish me at first. Again, I went through 3 different publishing companies. I ran across Miss Lisa Santiago. She's with Empowerment Publishing and Multimedia. And my friend Adrian Sundiata, he introduced me and Lisa, Miss Lisa Santiago. And Miss Lisa really, took my dream and put it in a reality for me. She made my book for me. And I really thank her for that, because changing my words to my story, it wouldn't have been my story. And I can't give you something that I didn't have. I can't give you a sugar-coated story, because the streets wasn't sugar-coated for me.
Correct. So
I had to give it to you how it was given to me, and that was the only way I was going to be able to free myself. So writing the book, it was challenging, but I got it done. I thank God that I'm able to tell my story, because I was able to go through the fire, but the smoke didn't kill me.
correct.
So it was challenging at times.
Now I know for a lot of the viewing audience, they probably want to know, when did the addiction start and what made you get into that lifestyle?
Well, it's all in my book, so I can give you some.
Yeah, just give us a little something.
My addiction started, my first love was alcohol. Just taking little sips here and there.
Okay.
Be at cookouts, fish fries, family gatherings, just doing stuff. And I just liked the way alcohol made me feel. And then it was to the point to where I would be drunk and wouldn't nobody know.
Okay.
So I like that. And then I can cover that with some toothpaste, mouthwash, peppermint, bubble gum.
Correct.
And I can, still have that feeling of the alcohol. So alcohol pretty much was my open, or as they say, your open gate to the drug way. And then from there, I started smoking marijuana. But I don't think marijuana is a drug. I don't consider marijuana a drug. Then from there, it was like doing the pills and the powder and the crack cocaine, which all came with the lifestyle I was living, because I was a stripper as well. But it's all, again, in my book.
Yeah.
So it was around about the age of 15, 16, maybe, when I started taking like little sips and stuff.
Okay.
So I'm going to say it was like, that's when everything pretty much started. I just didn't know that it was going to snowball into what it did. And it did.
So what did your parents say to you? Did they see this coming into, because of your age? I mean, you know what I'm saying?
No, because they was addicts too.
Okay.
So, no. They didn't see it. They didn't see it. I wish they would have, but they didn't.
So, what made you stop that lifestyle?
Again, it's all in the book. I have a passion for life. I love life. And God blessed me with a little girl.
Okay, all right.
And that pretty much stopped my addiction process. The way that it happened, you're making me give my book.
Oh no,
The
I mean
way
that's
that
a
it
whole
happened
yeah.
is that I ended up going to prison for something that I did, and I was looking at a lot of time, and they ended up telling me during the time that I was in jail that I was pregnant. And it just pretty much changed my life around. And then when I found out I was pregnant and how many months I was, I had 2 doctor's appointments, and she was here. And I asked God before she was born, I was like, if you can bring her here with no informalities, no disabilities, and just make her perfect for me, I wouldn't do another drug in my life. And that's what happened.
That's a good feeling, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
You know.
Her name is Heaven.
Okay, that's. I know Heaven's really proud of you.
Yeah, she is. She is.
And I know you have more kids. You know, how do they feel about their mother now?
Oh,
You know?
now they love. Oh, they always love me though. It's never been like I drugged them through my bullshit. Excuse me, but it was like I had a village, which is my family, my sisters. Thank God for my family. They stepped in the time of need. So when I was out here in my mess doing my mess, my sister stepped up and did what needs to be done for my other kids. And I'm grateful for that because I could have really just really messed their life up,
Correct.
just dragging them through my mess. And today we have a great relationship. Everybody is older now.
Mm-hmm.
They're in between the ages of 30 and Heaven is 11. So everybody is, we pretty much good. We're pretty much good. They're proud of me and I'm proud of them. And they help me out a lot, believe it or not, as far as, my work and stuff. They really do. And they're very involved in a lot of things that I'm doing. They're very supportive. I love my kids.
I see you.